just to warn you, I am going to be using an awful lot of wrestling lingo in this. I never thought I'd be comparing RuPaul to Vince McMahon in any way whatsoever. But then again, I didn't think this pandemic would last longer than a few months, and look how that turned out. RuPaul's Drag Race has become the most predictable show on TV. So much so that I now think of myself as a Drag Race smark, and I absolutely hate that my brain has made that parallel. But there we go. Drag Race Season 13 and Drag Race UK Season 2 have been the most blatant example of favoritism in Drag Race history. Now, before I go any further, I just want to put it out there, Lawrence Chaney is a fantastic queen. I'm not trying to take away her victory at all. I think it was well deserved. I think she performed fantastically on her season, and ultimately, she does deserve to win. However, Drag Race has kind of done the exact same thing that WWE did a few years ago. And I'm going to refer to this as the once-in-a-lifetime problem. For those of you in the know, you will know exactly what I mean by once-in-a-lifetime. But for anybody that doesn't, once-in-a-lifetime is the tagline that WWE marketed The Rock versus John Cena at WrestleMania 28. Now, this marketing was part of a 3-year deal that WWE did with The Rock that said that he would host WrestleMania 27 and cost John Cena the championship. He would face John Cena at WrestleMania 28 in the main event, and at WrestleMania 29, they would have the rematch for the WWE Championship. Now, as any wrestling fan will tell you, this sucked. And the reason this sucked is because of one very clear problem. This was a massive slap in the face to every single wrestler not named John Cena and The Rock. And it did not account for new stars being made in that 3-year period. For example, CM Punk, who at that time became the hottest thing in wrestling purely by himself. So, now that I've explained what the once-in-a-lifetime problem is, let me explain the parallels. RuPaul and the producers obviously pre-book or predetermine who they want to be the front runners every single season. And sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's less obvious. But these plans don't account for natural developments. The biggest example of this has been season 13 of US Drag Race. I will tell you right now, the top 4 in my eyes, and probably in everyone else's eyes, are going to be Gottmik, Simone, Olivia Lux, and Candy Muse. Another example of this was Lawrence Chaney. It became very obvious very early on that she was a favourite of RuPaul, and you knew if RuPaul likes you, you're gonna make it to the end. So the top 4 in season 13 and Lawrence Chaney would be the John Cena and The Rock in this situation. Queens like Rosé and Denali in season 13 and Bimini Bon Boulash in Drag Race UK season 2 are the version of CM Punk in this analogy. Drag Race has pre-booked itself into a corner. Season 13 is much more blatant with it. For example, Denali got sent home in the makeover challenge. Now the queens were supposed to make over each other, and Denali was told, you captured your brand on Olivia Lux. But Olivia Lux did not capture her brand when she made over Denali. Somehow, that landed Denali in the bottom 2, because they judged them in their pairings. And Olivia Lux was not going to get sent home from this. So Denali essentially got sent home for someone else's failings. A second example happened the very next week. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen this week's Drag Race. Tina Burner was sent home for being too on brand in a branding challenge. What? Tina Burner knows exactly what her brand is, and she has been on brand since day one. Every single time she hits the runway, it's a classic Tina Burner branded look, okay? The branding challenge was supposed to be her challenge, because she's the queen that knows her brand more than anyone. Now don't get me wrong, I am not the biggest fan of Tina Burner. However, I think she's a very seasoned queen, I think she should be respected, and I think she absolutely knows who she is. She was in the bottom because the judges essentially said it wasn't unique enough, it wasn't different enough, it's becoming a little bit samey. The problem with that is in a branding challenge, you are supposed to establish exactly who you are. She's established who she was every single week, and then she absolutely rounded it off perfectly in the branding challenge. I could keep going on about this for a long time, but essentially, Tina Burner got sent home for being too on brand in a branding challenge. One thing that is unclear at this point in season 13 is Rosé. Rosé has become a little bit of a wild card because she won the musical challenge. She did very well in Snatch Game. And again, spoiler alert if you haven't seen this week's Drag Race, but Simone and Rosé both won the challenge. They both got a $5,000 tip and they both were declared the winners. Now I've noticed Rosé has started having success in Drag Race ever since it was revealed that she's actually of Scottish descent. And as anybody who watched Drag Race UK Season 2 will tell you, RuPaul loves a Scottish queen. Now this could be a coincidence, but the fact that they filmed all of Season 13 in between filming Season 2 of Drag Race UK makes me think that RuPaul might have done that deliberately. Now, at this point, especially with Season 13, this is all hearsay, this is all speculation. Obviously, if there's a different top 4 than the 4 I previously stated, then fair enough, I will admit I was wrong. But as it stands, Drag Race is about to be Rock vs. Cena all over again. And the Rock vs. Cena trilogy didn't work out the way that WWE hoped it would. So I'm just praying that RuPaul doesn't make the same mistake.